All right, we'll go ahead and call the order. Let's see here. Second. I don't have my virtual gavel I'm banging here. So I'll read what we have here. The governor has declared a state of emergency to exist in California as a result of the threat of COVID-19, otherwise known as the coronavirus. The governor has issued executive order N3320, which directs Californians to follow public health directives, including canceling large gatherings. The executive order also allows local legislative bodies to hold meetings via conference calls while still meeting state transparency requirements. The public's health and well-being are the top priority for the city of Yuba City, and you, the public, are encouraged to take all appropriate health safety precautions. And how to participate in this virtual meeting. It's usually utilizing GoToWebinar application for this live broadcast. For this meeting, we'll be using the questions functionality of this tool in order to accommodate public comment. On desktop computers, the questions section of the app is located at the bottom of the GoToWebinar panel that is on the right side of your screen. On mobile devices, there is a question mark, the punctuation question mark, on the bottom toolbar that opens the question screen. For those that would like to comment during this meeting, please enter your comment into the questions portion of the app and be sure to state the item you will be commenting on. During the public comment of each item, staff will read aloud the comments provided by the public for all to hear for that specific item. Please be timely with your questions, as once the public hearing is closed or the item has been discussed by council and voted upon, no more comments will be accepted for that item. So that being said, this is the first, I don't know if it's a first ever, but it's definitely a first for this council to have a meeting completely online. Everybody looks good. I think we're ready to go. And it says we have 26 people or otherwise entities joining us here, so 21 other folks. May I have roll call, please, Terrell?
Mayor Harris.
Here.
Vice Mayor Boomgarden.
Here.
Councilmember Cardoza.
I see him.
I heard him in the other room. Councilmember Espindola.
Here.
Councilmember Shaw.
Here.
All right. And Councilmember Shaw, would you do us a favor of a few words of inspiration?
All right, let's pray tonight. Our Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the opportunity to gather, even though it's via technology in these times. Father, we just pray for your guiding hand upon this entire community, this entire country. Keep your hand of protection and safety upon our first responders, our doctors, our nurses, as these guys are the real heroes and the real warriors right now. They're on the front line. And Lord, we just pray that you just give us a sense of peace and calm during this time, and let us know that you are in charge ultimately. Give us wisdom as we begin to make decisions for our community, and make sure we do the right thing, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. On to the flag salute. Mandy, since you have a flag right behind you, would you mind leading us in the flag salute? Your microphone is, there's a flag on the screen too, but go ahead. The other side. Over your right shoulder. The flag's behind you. Oh, no, it's not. It's in front of you on the screen. Go ahead.
His mic is not working.
Unmute your mic. I picked the one guy with the dead mic. I will go ahead and lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
All right. Thank you all. And thank you everybody for bearing with us. This is interesting, but I think we're going to get some work done here. Mr. City Attorney, do we have a report for closed session items?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was no reportable action taken in closed session.
Very good, thank you. And do we have any agenda modifications? right, so we'll move on to the COVID-19 presentation from Yuba City Economic Development Corporation and the Chamber of Commerce regarding COVID-19. Brenda Stranix from the Yuba City EDC and Marnie Sanders from Yuba City Chamber of Commerce. I hope you're both there and welcome. It says you're signed in, but I don't have your microphones are muted. At least Marnie's is.
Okay, it's supposed to be hearing from my computer, so I unmuted it. So I'll start again.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
There's also a delay when I hit the forward button on the computer, so bear with me, please.
No worries.
In partnership with the Yuba City Economic Development Corporation and CEO Brenda Stranix. The Chamber and the EDC surveyed its members and businesses from March 26th to March 31st. The survey was sent out to approximately 25 business owners and managers, and of those surveys that were sent out, we received 148 responses. We asked our businesses if they had to close their doors completely. Of our respondents, 25% said yes, they closed their doors altogether. Next, we asked if they didn't close, if they had to reduce their hours. Of the responses, 55% said they had to reduce their business hours as a result of the COVID situation and the directive. We also asked our businesses if they were now operating remotely. Of the responses, 22% said that yes, they were operating remotely now. And that does include the chamber. We also asked those we surveyed if they had to reduce employee hours. 67% responded that yes, they did reduce employee hours. I don't have this on any of the slides, but we also asked those we surveyed how many employees they had to lay off. Of the 148 respondents, we had a total of 400 employees who were laid off in this particular survey, and that's out of approximately 4,000 jobs. Last slide, pertaining to the survey, we asked our businesses what their greatest concern was. Obviously, cash flow, and as you can see here, meeting cash flow needs in the next 90 days is of great concern, but I think 30, 60, 90 days, it's very concerning to all of our businesses right now, as many businesses are closed. They're doing a fraction of the business that they were doing before the COVID situation. I know I've talked to restaurants who maybe have 30% of what the revenue they had before, and just trying to keep their heads above water. I also wanted to point out some of the comments regarding this other column. And again, it just all goes back to cash flow. Our businesses are worried about being able to pay their rent and their utilities, their payroll. They've had to lay a lot of employees off and reduce hours. None of this is, I'm sure, any surprise to any of you. Our businesses are worried about retaining good employees. They're worried about their health, their employees' health. There's just a lot to be concerned about in this time that we're in right now. But I do have to say that I've talked to a lot of businesses, and they're there really is still a lot of positivity out there. Folks just understand that this is a situation that we don't have control over, other than to, you know, do what is required to keep ourselves and our family and friends healthy, so we can get out of this situation and hopefully back to business as usual, whatever that looks like. I know that, you know, folks might be starting to think about doing business differently moving forward. All right, to the last slide, and I'm sure you all know this, but both the Chamber and the EDC are working really diligently at staying on top of information, especially when it comes to, you know, loans and financial help for our business community. So both the Chamber and the EDC have created pages on their website that we have all that information available for our business community. So, you know, please feel free to go and check that out. We try to keep that updated as often as we can. And then I've just included slides to take a look at our website. So if you go to yubacitterchamber.com, this is what you'll find for our rapid response resources. And then similar to that with the EDC, they also have resources, and obviously they have business loans and loan programs there. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this narration and allow for questions. And Brenda and I are on the phone call if you have any specific questions for us. Thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you very much. It's good information to have on EDC website, Chamber website. I understand it's also on the city's website. So any resources, information available for businesses to help them out during this tough time, I'm sure they would appreciate it. So thank you very much for that presentation. I would like to invite any public comment if we have received any, Terrell.
No, we have not.
We have not. Okay. Any members of the council care to comment on anything?
Yes, I do, through the mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Marnie, and thank you, Brenda. I had a couple of questions that I wanted to ask. You know, these are very trying times, as we all are very familiar with, and considering how challenging it is for many businesses in our community. You know, I'm had a lot of questions about, or actually questions from small, you know, mom and pop kind of businesses. And in particular, you know, speaking Hispanic, Punjabi, East Indian community, second language issues. How are you reaching out to those particular businesses? That's a question for Marnie or Brenda.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna turn my video on. So, hi everybody. Thank you for allowing us to be here this evening with you all. As far as the chamber is concerned, we have not reached out specifically to those segments. However, you know, we're reaching out to our membership and to the broader business community through, you know, social media channels and through our website. And I'm not sure if Brenda's, what she's doing on her end, but that, so if you have any suggestions, I mean, we're happy to hear those as well. Because we're trying to reach the broader business community. Normally the chamber, you know, focuses primarily on its members, but we understand in this time, you know, we're being much more inclusive and we want to be supportive of the entire business community. Yeah.
Brenda?
So this is Brenda. Good evening, council. Thank you for the time. We did produce all of our loan documentation marketing as well as loan applications in both Spanish and Punjabi for the Sutter County Loan Program.
Well, that's good to hear. I appreciate the fact that it was translated. I think that there's an opportunity to build a partnership with AHA the Alliance for Hispanic Advancement, I'm sure. One of the things that in that I also heard some challenges from people and even myself, but how we can work together to break it down for people to understand how to apply, which loan works best for them and their business. And so, you know, to make it manageable for them, because in everything else that they have, as you mentioned, you know, in your presentation, there's already a tremendous amount of stress that they're under. And so a lot of the questions from business owners, again, mom and pops, it's like, which loan's best for me? You know, where do I start? And so breaking it down as a more manageable type of understanding for folks, I think, is there any work being done that or considered on that?
Well, oh, go ahead, Brenda, you can
Go
start.
ahead. Go ahead. Either way, Marnie. I guess our real message is, Grace, from both Marnie and I, is have them call either one of us. We will make sure they get to the resources they need, not unlike any other everyday business transaction in Yuba and Sutter County. We will make sure that they are assisted if they need language assistance, if they just need assistance filling out applications. We are all prepared to do that with and for them.
That's great to hear. I was also asking within our city, you know, because we have business license that we issued through the city, and I think there's some research being done right now in identifying all those really small mom and pop kind of businesses, right? Would there be, this is a question for our council together and our city manager, is there an opportunity maybe to reach out to those that are not on social media, those that are not website access or familiar or utilized, to send to hand deliver a flyer to each of these at their door? Non-essential staff could go out to each of these businesses that have business licenses and drop off a flyer to try to say, well, not to try to say, but to share some of these resources of the work that you're doing. Perhaps there could be something we could do as a city to help with that. I don't know if any thoughts of.
Is there an opportunity to put something in, say, the city water bill, or do you have a?
Where's our city manager? Diana.
Yep, I'm here. So there's a couple of options. We could put something in the utility bill. I can also work with finance in terms of getting the list of current business licenses, and then, you know, working with staff to identify some different ways that we could get information out, and then we could bring that back to council for discussion, perhaps in our meeting next Monday, and, you know, be able to provide some information and some different options.
Thank you, Diana. What do you think, Marty and Brenda, for some of those things, if we are able to assist with that?
Sure. And we could help to put that information together if you would like.
If it's just a one flyer summary of how, you know, applications and multiple languages, I think it would be helpful for folks. The last comment that I would like to make is that, you know, talking to local businesses and local bankers, I've been making some calls and talked with various local banks, and Bank of Feather River has actually been receiving quite a bit of applications, as other banks locally as well. And one of the things is maybe we can work with convening a meeting with our local banks to help understand what's the process and some of those pressure points in helping people work through the banking process as well, because there's a lot of answers that are not clear in the rules, and so they want to assist as much as they can. They're local community banks. They're invested in our community, and so perhaps we can entertain hosting a workshop and inviting local banks to give some information to our small businesses and find a way to help our businesses to be able to survive this pandemic crisis. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
And I think,
Thank you, Grace.
yeah, thank you. And I just to comment, I know I talked to a local bank this morning, and they're even trying to keep up on the different information that comes every day, really. And the conversations that I've had with people is that if you have a relationship with a lender or with a bank, to go in and to have that conversation with them. And banks right now, they've got to prioritize, and so they're working with their existing customers first. And so it's really helpful if you've already have an established relationship. And so that's a message that I've been carrying to businesses because this is such a cumbersome process. So if they can, have a conversation with a banker or lender that they know, I think that's going to be really helpful to them as well.
Through the mayor.
Yes, sir.
Marnie, thank you guys, you and Brenda, for the work that you guys have been doing. And it was nice, Marty, to see on the Chamber's website right up front that it wasn't hidden behind member-only areas. You had the resources there. So I really appreciate that. With this whole process we're going through and what people have to understand, and while it's a good idea to try to do outreach, this is moving at such a fast pace. It's not changing daily, it's changing by the hour. The avenues professionally I'm plugged in with is in the line of the Treasury, through the bank taxes and things of that nature. And like you said, Marnie, they are getting updates to applications, updates to rules. They're trying to digest this. So I don't know how we reached people that aren't plugged into social media of some sorts, because the issue with this is it's moving so fast that if we put something in our water bills, if we put something out in the mailer, by the time they get it, they're going to be, the train left the station Friday, and it really left yesterday and today. Several national banks such as Wells Fargo, Bank of America have already hit their limits. Chase finally rolled theirs out today. As you said, talking with our local lenders here, they are all taking care of servicing their relationships first and moving things along. So that's the main point of contact, because all of the stimulus that's coming through the SBA will not be through the conventional methods. And that was Treasury Secretary Mnuchin's plan, was to get it through the banks to where it would be in the hands of everyone. And so with that, I'm open to suggestions, but I don't think that traditional means is going to get us there. So maybe some webinars with our local bankers, something that's got to be immediate. We know that it's going to be changing almost daily, but we've got to get people plugged into social media and to the internet, because if not, they will miss the boat on this.
So, Dave, this is Brenda. I have a suggestion.
Yes.
We utilize the City of Yuba City's business license list, and specifically those that have email addresses. If the city could assist us with getting that more complete, some of them do have email addresses, others do not. That would be a great way for us to reach more people, to either message directly to them or message them about opportunities for seminars or that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be a great idea, as long as we can do that without violating any privacy laws there. So I would kick that back to Diana and ask Ms. Langley if that would be something they could find out, or actually our attorney is on this as well. It's a great idea, but we got to make sure that we protect the privacy.
Right. Well, you already have a pretty extensive email list, don't you, that you send out newsletters?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
And we are messaging through the city's email list as well.
And thank you. I get both the chambers and the EDC, so thank you both.
All right, anything further before we move on? Oh, hold on. Might pause. All right, so thank you for that very much, Brenda and Marnie. That was a lot of work putting together that. Looks like some more effort to get the word out to these businesses. They're going through some tough times. We will move on. I've already asked for public comment on this, so we'll go on to discussion and action regarding COVID-19. If anything.
Carol, if you could please bring up the presentation.
Sorry, for some reason there's a delay.
So tonight, Chief Landon, Chief Alexander, and then Community Services Director Brad McIntyre are going to provide you some recent updates. So Chief Landon.
Okay, so everybody knows the public health order came out yesterday from Dr. Liu. So we've been reading through that. A couple of changes, gives us a better enforcement opportunity or a tool that we can use with the order. Currently, right now, patrols on a regular shift. We continue to minimize unnecessary exposure. We continue to ask that the public use online reporting when possible. We're having the officers not try to go into houses except in cases where they really need to go in. And we just want to minimize our distance and exposure with the officers due to the fact that we have a set number of officers, and once those are down, then we have nothing to replace them with. So we're just trying to be very proactive in how we're protecting their safety. We do have self-monitoring stations for the officers now as well at the police department, making sure they're checking their temperature twice a day. We are in the process right now. We just received a bunch of face masks from Back the Badge and a couple other local donations. So we really appreciate the public coming forward and giving us the opportunity to have those. And right now we're going through the business essential list. We're going to try to pare down. I think Commander Baker told me we have 3,100 business licenses. So we have to pare those down and figure out which are essential, which are non-essential. A lot of those are not actual businesses, but they're stay-at-home type things. But there are things that we need to address, each and every one. So hopefully by the end of the week, we have a comprehensive list of what is essential and what is not essential based on the input from Dr. Liu's public health order. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you very much, Rob. No question. Okay, is Jesse, you're up.
Mayor, council members, thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to discuss two different items with you. One is the city's Department Operations Center, which has been open since early during the incident. It's comprised of essential service coordinators that frequently meet for planning meetings to provide situational reports to meet the management objectives. And those are listed here on the screen, which are to ensure continuity of government, maintain essential services, document and track COVID expenses, provide a safe work environment for employees, providing accurate communications to the Yuba City employees and citizens, and foster and maintain relationship with cooperators. So at this time, all functions of the coordinators are working well. We haven't addressed any significant issues we haven't been able to work through. Then in addition, they're working on continuity of government plans in an effort to get a comprehensive essential service plan of operations together. So that's how, as a city, that's how we're focusing, making sure that all those departments are working together. And when we talk about those essential city services, we're talking about police, fire, water, and wastewater. But again, they're all working together. Next slide. And then on the fire department side, we started early in preparation for this incident, and we were fortunate to make sure that we're hitting the 10 best industry practices for COVID response. And those consist of tracking of expenses. So everything associated with it, from the cost of procurement of PPE to financial overtime and sick leave, is being tracked. Second is to maintain and track our PPE. Very fortunate right now that we were able to get our personal protective equipment purchased early, so we were ahead of the game. We dipped slightly below from the conventional level into the contingency level. However, thanks to some generous donations from the community, we were able to get back up into that conventional. And when I talk about a conventional amount of PPE, We're looking at, for us, we're at about a 60 to 70 day period to be able to function with our N95 mask, and well over that with some of our other personal protective gear. Number 3 is dispatch protocols. We established those early with our emergency medical dispatching, where they started questioning to determine those flu-like symptoms and identify any possible cases. In addition, we've implemented instructions to try to get individuals to come outside so that our first responders are not having to go into a confined area to provide that medical attention. We have extensive response protocols put in place to limit the risk associated with our first responders that are going out there. Extensive training was provided early on to make sure that we're hitting the proper methods for donning and doffing our personal protective equipment and decontaminating of apparatus and facilities. Those exposure protocols that we currently have in place, for next slide, going forward, is we've established risk assessments for each one of our personnel to lower that. And we've used call it a scout method, where we're only sending one firefighter in at a time to make that initial assessment. We're also, as a big concern for us, is not only the exposure that they receive in the field, but the exposure that they might receive from each other at the fire stations. Fire stations are routinely have at least 3 firefighters at them, so they're in close contact for at least 24-hour period. As a result, we want to make sure that we're not transferring the disease back and forth between each other there. So we're doing a self-assessment and a single point entry corridor where we're taking temperatures twice daily. And then also we're making sure that we're cleaning the station at least twice daily, and including a decontamination procedure at the end of shift. 7, we've worked through our workers' comp process, making sure that we're doing our exposure forms. Communications for 8, we have great internal communication, and we've been working on our external communications between operational briefings at the beginning of every shift, working on our social media, and then we implemented a mental health task force to give firefighters the opportunity to make sure that they're getting the resources they need to deal with the anxiety of being constantly exposed to this while they're out in the field. As 9 is what I talked about, the self-screening portion of it. That's been working really well. And then we're also talking with our state and federal resources to make sure that we have the opportunities to go after certain things as we go forward. So with that, I open it up for questions.
Terrell, have we received any public comment by chance?
We have not.
Okay. All right.
Through the mayor.
Sure.
For both of our chiefs, I know that there's been reach out to our community and reach out to local businesses that might have N95 masks and extra supplies. I know we're good now, but we don't know how long this will last. Could you both use donations if people would want to donate to our police and fire department with any PPE as well?
On the fire department side, absolutely. We always have to plan for the worst case scenario. So we have to look forward to going to ramping up and having an excessive burn rate as this progresses and hits its peak. So absolutely, we would appreciate any donations we could receive.
Same with the police department. We appreciate anything that the public can get us as well.
All right, thank you both. I wanted to make sure that was out there because there's a lot of push for the medical field, and I know they need it because once they get in there, they are dealing with it every day. But you guys are out there on the front lines and have to deal with it before we even know they have it. So if the community wants to make any donations, how do they get those to you?
So the police department's open 24/7. They can come by, pick up the phone, call us up. We don't want to compete with the health department. Obviously, they have the same needs as we do, and we make sure that the person that was in the most need at that time would get them. But the police department, if you come to the lobby or you call the business line first, let us know you're coming, and we'll monitor, and we'll be out there to pick them up and share them with the fire department and other staff.
Thank you, Chief. And I know that you guys would cross share, like you said, with all of our healthcare workers. So thank you.
Through the mayor. Fire Chief, I'm happy to hear the fact that you're working on the external communication, in particular with the mental health, for helping our team to stay. This is wearing on people's minds, hearts, physical being, their families and loved ones. So have people been utilizing the mental health aspects of the services that you talked about?
That's a very good question. So when we put together the task force, you always have that concern, is it going to be utilized? There was a big push to make sure that they are, to identify that not just for themselves, but their families and their children, and then also to prep them for going out into the community, because we anticipate a different vibe going out on calls, because people are that social distancing also results in isolation. So you're going to start to see some more depression going forward on that. And as a result, I reached out recently to some of those providers, and they said that they have been receiving notifications and questions from firefighters in the department. So yes.
Good. I was going to ask you, my second follow-up question to that is, have you seen any increase of potential depression and suicide? Because that seems to be a national trend that I've been following on, on community in general, and just wanted to see how that is playing out in our community.
It's hard to quantify, for us to quantify the depression mode that would be out in the community. As of right now, our uptake in suicides, it tends to be about where we normally would be. But we're always just planning for the worst on that, and just trying to get a vibe of everybody out there. But for me, I'm definitely focusing on trying to get a good vibe of the anxiety level of the firefighters that are going out there.
Well, I'm grateful and thankful for our police chief and yourself and our team and all of you taking care of our community. But it's also with great value to take care of yourself and your families, in order to feel that when you're out taking care of the rest of us, that you feel, completely able and present to do that work. So I thank you so much for that. And I'm here to serve however I can help both of your departments and our community.
All right, anything further? If not, we will go. Item number 3 would be appearance of interested citizens. And thank you, Chief. We appreciate the effort and the update on everything.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yeah.
Did you want to hear from Community Services Director Brad McIntyre?
Yeah, that's right. I knew I was forgetting something. Is he there? Are you
Yes,
here? Please forgive me, Brad. I'm looking at 2 different screens here. Yes, please give us an update.
No worries at all.
I apologize.
Oh, no worries. Thank you. As it relates to the elderly and the most vulnerable, I would say everyone's needs are being met as of right now. With the Yuba Center COVID-19 task force, they are heavily involved with volunteers. I'll talk about a little bit about that here in a second. As it relates to our parks, it's going to be kind of tough. The weather's going to get nice. The kids are going to get even more restless, and our parks are going to be closed for the most part. The play structures, the shade structures, our picnic tables are all closed. Our fields are open, but really it's just more for open space, as for people to walk, maybe play a little catch one-on-one, but it is not allowed for soccer or football or large groups. So in the next couple days, our citizens will start seeing more security officers visiting our parks, really to inform the public and really just help them with the social distancing. As I alluded to earlier, the Yuba Center COVID-19 task force, they have approximately 127 current volunteers. Their goal is to get to about 250. They have been in the process of delivering food. They have delivered about 27 emergency food deliveries within the bi-county jurisdictions, and over 653 deliveries have been made from that group, and then that does not include the food banks as well. So I would say on that front right now, all is well.
Very good. Any questions or comment from council? Nothing? And I'll ask one more time about public. Any public comment, Terrell?
No comments have been received.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for that report, Brad. You've clearly also been very busy. It's a lot of good information and adjusting and thinking ahead on your feet. So much appreciated. All right. Once again, forgive me for not remembering that. Number 3 is appearance of interested citizens. Due to the coronavirus, comments are to be provided by email to cityclerk@yubacity.net or through GoToMeeting. That's all one word. Oral comments by phone or in person are currently not available. It says here we have received 2 letters that have been requested to be read at the council meeting. The first one is from Robin Hearn Essary.
Would you like me to read that, Mayor?
Yes, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. Says to Yuba City Council, on March 30th, 2020, I answered my front door to 2 Yuba City representatives. They informed me that the 6 trees lining the frontage of my home were going to be removed due to disease and they were dying. These trees have been on the street for decades and provide shade, wind protection, and most importantly, homes for nesting birds, squirrels, and other species. Since 1996, I have watched every year the nesting period of these many species inside and outside of these trees. Every tree cut down along the street had nests inside of them. I asked the city reps a few questions. 1, when would the trees be removed? They told me in 1 to 2 weeks. This was a lie because they ripped them out the next day on March 31st, knowing the residents could not have time to dispute or try to save our trees and the wildlife residing in them. 2, would new trees be replanted? They said no. They further said that the residents would not replant them in the same place because the city owned the right of way. I was told by the reps the residents would have to move several feet into our lawns to replant. 3, would removing the trees mean we would now get our gutters and sidewalks? The answer, of course, was no again. The city annexed our neighborhood in 1996 and was done absolutely nothing to address our flooding or driveways, streets, and lawns. The residents must walk in the streets competing with vehicle traffic to take walks or ride bikes. The council needs to understand that most of all of our homes on Cassidy Avenue have their own well and septic systems. We literally use no city services but pay city taxes like all other residents. What is a return on our taxation? Nothing. After 23 years and no expectations from our city, the least the council could do is address the destruction so needlessly caused. A week later and the stumps from the trees remain. The stumps look healthy, so we would ask the city for a copy of the arborist report. We have a few questions posed directly to our council members representing all of us. 1, were you aware that the city purposely cut down over 20 beautiful live trees that produce leaves foliage every year? 2, were you advised that they were going to destroy, kill eggs, baby birds, and other baby species during nesting season? If so, why do it? If not, who is making the decisions to violate environmental laws and regulations? 3, why would the city not replace trees in a neighborhood and destroy an ecosystem so important but not replace it? Why would the city leave one of their neighborhoods damaged by their own works and lower the residents' property value, which in turn lowers property tax rolls? 4, what was the immediate risk to the community during a coronavirus that could justify killing trees and species? At a time your residents are stressed out and homebound, was this really the time to destroy our beautiful street that were famously lined with nature? 5, do you share the attitude of other city representatives that proper notice was not important and not given to residents a voice to try and resolve the protection of these trees and wildlife is okay? And 6, will you work with us to replace the trees or commit to sidewalks and gutters to create safety measures? Finally, I would like to invite all of you to the one tree managed to be saved for now at 581 Cassidy Avenue, which has a nest full of baby birds to prove nesting was real. We have a hard time dealing with the memory of the tree contractors cutting the limbs containing the babies and then throwing them into the blades of the wood chipper to be destroyed. We can't think of anything right now more inhumane or thoughtless. Equally worse is the knowledge the city has no plans to replace the ugliness it caused. The residents of Cassidy Avenue are close-knit and look after each other. Many of us have lived here for decades because it's a county environment you can't find anywhere else in our city. While we did not cause the problem, we would like to be part of the solution for how the city can rectify its actions. Robin Hearn Essery, and her address and phone number.
All right. Very well written letter. We appreciate that for sure. Diana, is there a way we can formulate a response to the questions, or at least have a further up conversation with this individual?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Any member of the council have anything to comment on that? No. Okay, I can appreciate the perspective for sure. And then Tara, we have one more letter.
To the mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I had to take my mute off. I saw that letter late this evening, so I drove down the street before I was able to get here, and it does look pretty bad because it was a beautiful treed street on both sides, and it's pretty bare on the north side, the south side of the street now. And we need to maybe try doing something for those folks, because it was a beautiful street, and see what we can do. If you see what staff can do, and see if we can help those folks in the future, and at least get those stumps cleaned up, because they are ugly in the yards. I mean, if they cut the trees down in 24 hours, I think we can get staff or somebody to get those stumps cleaned up in the next week or so. That's just my comments.
Sounds reasonable. Thank you, Manny. Appreciate it. All right, so the second letter is Jeff Rutledge.
Yes, the second letter is from Jeff Rutledge, and he's also on Cassidy Avenue, and the subject is removal of all the trees during nesting season on Cassidy Avenue. Thank you for taking a few minutes to listen to my concerns about a project that was performed by the City of Yuba City on Cassidy Avenue starting on Monday, March 30th, 2020. On Monday morning, a representative from Yuba City knocked on my door and indicated that they were going to cut the tree down in my front yard. He said the trees were sick and hollow down to the trunk. He also said they were planning to take all the trees down in the entire block in the next few days because of a liability. Many of my neighbors, including myself, have been taking on the responsibility fiscally for the care of these trees for decades. The south side of the street has power poles with PG&E power, Comcast cable, and AT&T telephone. The tops of the trees on the south side have been maintained by PG&E for decades. Tuesday morning, Birch's Tree Service, contracted out by the city, began on the southwest side of the street, cutting the trees down to the ground. As the trees were going down, my neighbors and I were noticing that the trees were not nearly as sick as we were informed. We also noticed there were many birds flying over the stumps looking for their nests. This did not seem to concern the tree trimmers as they ran limbs with nests through the wood chipper. They proceeded and finished taking all the trees down on the south side of the tree, leaving the stumps. When they returned Wednesday morning, I asked the workers if they would not cut down the tree in front of my house because it was full of baby birds. They called their supervisor, and he came to my door and said if anybody had a problem with the tree coming down, he was told by the city to skip it. I told him they were welcome back this summer after the baby birds have flown the coop. He gave me Kevin Bradford's number at the city for any other discussions, and I contacted him. Kevin was very helpful and on a lot of other questions I had concerning Cassidy Avenue and other neglected older neighborhoods annexed into the city over the past few decades, such as sidewalks, gutters, streetlights, water, and sewer. He asked me to get a hold of Matt Langley regarding the tree situation. Matt called me back the next day and said he didn't have a good answer for my questions. I asked him if he could send me the arborist report regarding this report. He said he would get it to me next week. I still have not received that report. I followed the phone conversation up with an email with some of the following questions that have not been answered. 1, why were the homeowners not notified in writing by the city prior to the week of the tree removal? 2, why was the work performed during a national and statewide stay-at-home order by our local, state, and federal government? 3, how long will it be before the city returns and removes the tree stumps? 4, does the city have any future plans for improvements on Cassidy Avenue? 5, will the city be replacing the trees that were removed? And 6, would the city take on a project like this during the nesting season of birds and bees? Or why, not what? It appears that the city has disregarded any environmental rules and regulations such as Fish and Game Code 3503, It is unlawful to take, possess, or needlessly destroy the nest or eggs of any bird except as otherwise provided by this code or any other regulation made pursuant thereto. Thank you for listening to my concerns, and I would appreciate the party or parties responsible for initiating this project to clarify, justify their actions. Thank you for your time and consideration. Jeff Rutledge, address and phone number. Mayor, you're muted.
All right, thank you for that heads up. Once again, like I was saying, another well-written letter by Mr. Rutledge, and appreciate his concerns. Dinah, same request for a response to him, if you don't mind.
Yes, we will.
Thank you very much. Any public comment? I know I keep asking that, Terrell, but are we still good, without any extra?
I still do not have any extra comments.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed on our consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time that council votes on the motion unless members of the city council, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action. Do we have any comments from the public on this item on the consent calendar? Apparently nothing.
Through the mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar items 4, 5, and 6.
All right, before we do that, just confirming, Terrell, for the consent calendar items, no public comment?
No comments received.
Okay, and then we have a motion to approve consent calendar 4, 5, and 6. So I have a second on that?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good, moving on. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir?
being this is a video, this is a point of clarification. Do we or do we not need a roll call vote since we're online? I mean, I'm fine if we're good with it. That would be, I guess, for our attorney.
I think we're being recorded anyway, and so.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you for the question, though. Business items, number 7, Franklin Avenue Improvement Project Award, presented by Dinah Langley.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. So we have before you tonight the award of the Franklin Avenue Improvements Project. Next slide, Carol. So the project's located on Franklin Avenue between Flora Avenue and Gray Avenue and includes widening the roadway to provide bike lanes and sidewalks. A portion of the project is located in Sutter County along the south side, and so we've already worked out an agreement with Sutter County for reimbursement for the improvements within the county area. Cheryl, next slide, please. So the city has obtained $376,200 in federal funds through the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Grant. As all of you know, when you drive Franklin Avenue, it's in very poor condition right now, and there's some particularly challenging issues for bicyclists and pedestrians. And since this is a main route to Yuba City High School, we were successful in obtaining a grant to improve the roadways. In addition, some residents within this area are still on septic and wells. And so as part of this project, we'll be stubbing out utilities to those properties. So at such time as they're ready to connect, we don't have to dig up the road to then install the connections. Cheryl, next slide, please. So the project was put out to bid, and we received 7 bids. You can see here on the screen that the bid results range from $1,178,000 to $1.62 million. The engineer's estimate was $1,240,000. Next slide, please, Cheryl. And so a breakdown of the fiscal impact, we have the construction contract for $1,178,000. We're requesting $150,000 in contingency, which equates to about 11%, which I'll address on the next slide. And then construction management cost of $50,000 for a total construction cost of $1,378,143.22. You can see by the breakdown of the funding, there's multiple funding sources on this project. So we have CMAQ funds, Streets and Roads funds, CDBG funds as related to the pedestrian improvements, water funds for water stub outs, and then wastewater funds for sewer stub outs. So at such point as residents connect to the lines, we would be able to collect some fees. And then also we're going to utilize SB1 funds for a portion of the project as well. And as noted on the bottom, the county will reimburse us up to $122,852 for work within the existing county right-of-way. Next slide, please, Cheryl. So the reason that staff is requesting a contingency of 11% is that there are some variables, particularly with this project. You have an original concrete roadway that lies under existing Franklin Avenue. That can always be problematic when you have an old concrete street. Potential conflicts with many utilities, and the construction and tying of utilities with the properties. Next slide, please. So with that, it's staff recommendation to adopt a resolution awarding a construction contract to Darren Taylor Construction of Anderson, California, in amount of their bid, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city, subject to review and approval as to legal form by the city attorney. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, no questions from council. Do we have any public comment?
No comments have been received.
All right. Absent any comments from the public or council, I will entertain a motion.
Through the mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to, to adopt a resolution awarding a construction contract to Darren Taylor Construction, Inc. of Anderson, California, in the amount of their total bid of $1,178,143.22, authorizing the city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city, subject to review and approval as to legal by the city attorney.
Second.
The first and second to approve staff's recommendation. All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? None. Thank you very much. Move on to number 8, purchase and installation of video surveillance system at the Yuba City Police Department.
Thank you, Mayor Harris, members of the council. This is Brian Hansen, your senior IT analyst. And today I'm bringing before you the purchase and installation of video surveillance system for the Yuba City Police Department. Just some background, this project, the Yuba City Police Department has had a video surveillance system in one form or another since it was constructed. The current system is an Avigilon surveillance system and was installed in 2014. Staff has determined that the useful life for this kind of system is around 5 years and has put funds into our capital equipment replacement fund to cover the cost of this replacement. So earlier this year, staff worked with the original installer to price out a replacement Avigilon system. The quote came in $20,000 over budget. This prompted staff to research other vendors and evaluate the alternatives. Staff looked at systems from Pelco and Verkada to go along with the Avigilon proposal, and in order to determine what systems was going to provide the best value and fit within the city's budget. The system from Verkada quickly stood out by including many features not available or only available at additional cost from other vendors while coming in at a much more competitive price. So staff prepared a request for quote and distributed it for consideration. The city received 4 quotes back, with the quote from IT Management Corp out of Santa Clara, California coming in at the lowest with a quote of $49,895. Normally this would not be taken to council because it is below the $50,000 threshold, but this is the 3rd project with IT Management Corp this year, and our combined purchase when including this project is over $50,000 and therefore requires council approval. It is staff's recommendation to authorize the city manager to enter into agreement for purchase of video surveillance hardware, software, and installation from IT Management Corp of Santa Clara, California, in the amount of $49,895, subject to the approval by the city attorney as to legal form, with finding that it is the best interest of the city and approval of a Class 1 categorical exemption under CEQA. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Brian, for the public's benefit, could you maybe go into what it means to have a Class 1 categorical exemption under CEQA?
So this might be a better question for the city attorney. My understanding is that that's an existing building with an existing infrastructure, and it's simply replacing that infrastructure so it is exempt for the CEQA and environmental guidelines in that aspect.
That's correct.
All right, well, thank you very much. And Terrell, just confirming no public comment?
No public comment.
All right. Any comments or question from council? If not, I will take a motion.
Through the mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we authorize the city manager to enter into agreement for the purchase of video surveillance hardware, software installation for IT Management Corp. of Santa Clara, California, in the amount of $49,895, subject to the approval by the city attorney as to legal form, with the finding that it is the best interest of the city and approval of Class 1 categorical exemption under CEQA.
I'll second it.
All right, first and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Unanimous approval. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you.
Go up to number 9, purchases of playground equipment for San Brandon Park.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. This is Brad McIntyre, the Community Services Director. The item before you this evening is to request council's approval to purchase new playground equipment at San Brandon Park. The existing playground at San Brandon is 23 years old and has exceeded its useful life. Due to the equipment's age, the manufacturer no longer produces the essential placement parts for the heavily used playground, making it difficult for staff to make repairs when needed. On February 19th, the Youth Commission reviewed and selected the plans, equipment, and colors for the playground. You can see what the playground is going to look like in your staff report on pages 11, 12, 13, and 14. The cost of the project, the equipment itself is just a little under $120,000. The installation estimated roughly around $40,000, which the installation will be done, completed by a contractor specializing in playground equipment. And the funding for this is from Community Development Block Grant funds, which, by the way, the project must be completed by June 30th. Community Development Block Grant funds, also known as CDBG funds. Relates to the CEQA, staff has performed a preliminary environmental assessment of this project and has determined that it falls within Class 1 categorical exemption set forth in the CEQA guidelines section per 15301. And I would gladly entertain any questions at this time.
Through the mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Brad, with all this going on in the world today, they won't give us the extension on this. It has to be done by June 30th.
I talked to our representative today with the city, and the answer was still yes. It had to be completed as of the end of June.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
Anything else?
Through the mayor,
Yes, sir.
following up on Councilman Cardoza's concern, I'm wondering if we shouldn't pursue that a little bit more. I mean, it seems almost inconsistent to put park equipment up and then have to secure it from use. I support the park equipment, but putting it up right now and then having to barricade it or whatever we do to keep people off it seems inconsistent.
Definitely a interesting timing given everything that's going on, for sure. Brad, are you confident that the answer remains no, that we have to do it?
I just know I asked of staff today. So yes, I would say I'm confident, but I certainly can bring it back before council with that information.
I think it's reasonable to maybe get one more bite at the apple, at least try to, and explain to them. There's so many concessions. That's kind of a rule of the day. People are giving each other breaks left and right on things that are a lot more important, for lack of a better term, than this. Perhaps we could give a little bit of pushback and we get a definite answer. I too am in favor of the structure, but it's going to look kind of odd for people.
Through the mayor?
Yes, sir.
For staff, for Brad, was it that we needed to purchase the equipment by the June deadline, or is it have to be installed as well?
Had to be installed as well, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Vice Mayor, are you done?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. How long will it take to actually put this all in place if they were asking us to do this in by June 30th? What's the timeline on this?
I anticipate that we would be taking the equipment out right about the beginning of June and have the equipment up within 25, 30 days.
So June, the whole month of June. Okay.
Yes.
It's actually somewhat possible that this could be over by then also, I suppose.
I'm hoping to be optimistic, Mayor, that, I mean, for Brad to check another time to see if there's an opportunity to push the date, but he's already made, the call today, so he's prepared to answer that question for us, which I appreciate that. And it doesn't hurt to ask one more time, but I really, hopefully by June, things will be a little better, and the opportunity to put this new park and maybe exhibit it in July would be a nice thing for, for our kids and our families to have.
Through the mayor.
I'd say we can go ahead and approve everything, but then we can just ask Brad to ask one more time about a potential delay. But you're right. If we had a crystal ball, the timing would be actually quite perfect to have a kind of a celebration once we get through the other side of this, So.
Through the mayor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Diana, by any chance, can our city attorney help us with this issue? He might have a little bit more power than nothing against you, Brad, but the attorney talking might have a little bit more power than a department head to postpone this.
So the city attorney doesn't have anything to do with the funding. What we will do is work with Ben Moody, because the CDBG program is out of his office, and we'll work with Ben to see what leeway we have in terms of, if we've purchased the equipment and we've started construction, is that sufficient, or does it actually have to be completed? We've had some experience in the past that as long as we've expended the funds by that time period and we're under construction, that's satisfied it. But we'll work with Ben to see what the options are to be able to extend this out a little bit.
Through the mayor, may I add something to that, Diana? Now that I understand which budget you're speaking about, the possibility of encumbrance of the monies may sometimes allow for those projects to move forward. So if we encumbered the money, as the mayor was suggesting, that that if we approve it this evening, so it's the CDBG funding, that we certainly need to spend this money, fellow council members and mayor and vice mayor, to say, because the expenditure then will note that we utilize the funding, and we will be in good standing for future amounts of funding. And if we are short on spending the funding during those timelines, that can cause some problems for us to receive some funds that are potentially going to help our city in the future, because some of this is tied into some of the federal stimulus packaging as well. So I would be ready to vote and to move on with this.
Any public comment, Terrell?
No comments have been received.
Okay, thank you. So we can either do a motion.
Okay. I move that there's 4 of these items. The recommendations of A, B, C, and D.
A second.
And for the purposes of clarification, Mr. Mayor, those would be the recommendations in the staff report. Is that correct?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And someone seconded, I didn't catch you.
That was me, Mayor.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I agree with this, but I just think it's the wrong time for us to be doing this. But I say aye. I agree with the vice mayor on this situation.
Yes, the timing is interesting, but business has got to go on as much as we can. And it's months out. So, okay. Anybody opposed? No one's opposed. Unanimous approval. Thank you very much. Brad, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
You're welcome. Item number 10, Future agenda items, anybody would like to discuss anything to be brought back to council at a later date? All right. And now we'll go on to reports and communications, beginning with Councilmember Cardoza.
Yes, we've had an exciting couple of weeks. I have a very great announcement that I would really like to start off with. I attended the Sutter County's Affordable Housing meeting, directors meeting, and I have wonderful, great news. The New Haven Court Apartments on the corner of Miles Drive and Garden Highway, the funding has all been taken care of, and we're hoping, we want to break ground by the end of the month. By the end of April, we want to break ground. And so that will be a 40-unit apartment complex to help homeless veterans and the homeless in our community. So that'd be 40 units, and we're planning on breaking ground by the end of April if everything's whatever, if this will let us. But that's our goal, and this will be done by the summer of 2021. So that's great news there. I attended the Feather River Air Quality meeting yesterday via on phone with everybody. The governor is kind of taking money away from that area, but we're going to see what we can do. We do have money saved up. We'll see if we can make it and get past this hard time. I attended the Yuba City Transit Authority meeting, and through this issue that we have in our community, the Transit Authority is giving free bus rides right now at this time. That way they can enter in the back of the bus and keep the staff of the transit folks, drivers, keep them safe, and they'll enter through the back of the bus and depart from the back of the bus. And I also attended the Planning Commission meeting last week. We have great things happening in our community, and they should be coming to us here shortly, hopefully within the next month. For city events, I helped the Yuba City Police Department with a wonderful group of guys. They cooked wonderful tri-tip and sausage for the employees of the city of Yuba City and also the Sutter County Jail. So that's it for me for this 2 weeks, and that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, Councilmember Espandola.
Thank you, Mayor. Most of the meetings that were scheduled, unfortunately, were canceled due to the coronavirus and other reasons related to that. I do have a meeting tomorrow. They're all moving towards online and video and virtual type meetings. But I do have a different topic that I wanted to bring forward to all of you this evening and see what your thoughts are on the conversation that we've had with COVID-19, some of the conversations that I've had with community members in reference to how do we really remind folks and hope that they stay home. And so I had a meeting with several individuals, all virtual online, and there were a couple of recommendations that I thought it would be helpful to hear what your thoughts are on these recommendations, and if the city would like to help support this and have our city staff work with this. The question that I asked was, how do we get people to comply with this stay home order, right? We've as we have shared over the past several weeks, all the work that our police and fire, all the different departments in our agency, how do we get people to do this? And one recommendation that I thought was actually a pretty good recommendation, and that's why I'm bringing it forward to you. And I believe some of these folks are watching tonight, so I just wanted to share that with you also. That one of them is perhaps a message from local clergy or priests or from different religions, have a recording done, a video from them, and that this video would be then put on our social media to remind folks the seriousness of this issue of stay home and how we can help each other and be a better community in that. And in that message, it would be in multiple languages and hopefully get a clear message to the community that this is needed. And at the same time, these individuals that participate within the video messaging would also take that back to their own community members, parishioners, whoever they are, to also share that message within their community and groups. That was one recommendation. The second recommendation is that why do people stay home? Why are the majority of us, I feel like it's a majority, are following through and staying home? And could there be a message for multiple community members for 10 seconds or less? We've seen on social media different other things that have been posted on why individuals are staying home and how we can support our healthcare workers, appreciate them, understand also their time and effort and risk of their own life. So we could do a message of why I stay home and appreciate our healthcare community. So those, if we're able to support that as a city, what I'm requesting is that we have, George, who has a connection with different groups of different faith-based, and Katie, who is able to, who does our, our PIO, who is able to put these things together. So one messaging for clergy, who, get them involved, supporting that. They message that out. And the second and third of that would be 10-second messages from community members all across our community. They can send them in to us and say why I stay home. And then also a message to say something appreciative to our healthcare workers, our first responders. And that is what I'm requesting, that maybe we can do this together as a council, as a city. So I invite any input from my fellow council members and mayor and vice mayor.
Anybody have anything they want to comment on that? No comment. Did you have anything further that you want to discuss, Grace?
No, I just, so would this be okay for us to move forward with our city to work on these messaging and supporting some of these ideas that the community brought forward? Is it, or could we have further conversation on that if you're not, clear about it? I'm open to that.
Diana or Shannon, I mean, this is something in council reports that we did the last couple of weeks. It wasn't brought up during future agenda items. If she's wanting to have a decision on what the city is going to do, is obviously going to take time and money of the city employees and resources. Is this the appropriate time and place to make that decision or have that discussion at the end of the council meeting?
Or become a
Mr. Mayor?
item?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Mr. Mayor, I recommend if you're inclined to add a future agenda item that you reopen the future agenda items section and then have that discussion there. Thank you.
Yes. Does that make sense, Grace?
It does, Mayor.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and we'll back up and reopen item number 10 for future agenda items. And Shannon, is it really necessary for her to repeat everything she just said, or she just wants to, can she just say, I move that we, as a future agenda item, that we bring up everything I just said?
Yeah, she can do that.
All right.
Okay, so I move, thank you. I move that all the items that I just mentioned be put on a future item for agenda for the council.
Okay, so that's a request. I don't think we need to vote on that. And I think just confirming, since I can't see her, Diana, we have that, or Diana and Terrell, we're good to go to have this discussion later?
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Grace, did you have anything else to add for what's typically discussed on number 11?
That's it, Mayor. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're going back to number 11 and we're continuing with Councilmember Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Everything the last several weeks has been all COVID-19. Yuba Center Transit did meet. Councilmember Cardoza reported out as far as some of the changes that's been made as far as coming in the back of the bus. I've been coordinating with our city manager, letting her know the reduced bus schedules and everything that transit has been implementing, as they have a complete plan that has been developing as the COVID-19 situation continues to develop and ridership continues to decrease. You've probably noticed that there has been quite a bit decrease in the amount of buses. And as this progresses more, as Mr. Martin has said, it'll probably continue to be less and less as people are now ordered to stay at home. So as those informations come in, I will continue to forward those on so that we at the city, as well as police and fire and everything, knows what's going on with our transit authority. Outside of that, as I said, everything has been COVID-19. I've had the pleasure of being part of a national kind of group that has had some great input just to kind of help everybody wrap their heads around what's going on. I've attended some webinars from the league on funding sources. I did share this a little bit with our city manager, Ms. Langley, that the bottom line is California stands in line to get $15 billion through the stimulus package that came down from the federal government. The only problem with that is the only municipalities that will get any direct financial aid is those that have a population greater than 500,000. And that pretty much takes us out of the loop on that. So the rest of the money that doesn't go to those municipalities goes to the state of California. And at current, the state of California is not under any mandate to share those resources down to the smaller municipalities that's under 500,000. The league is planning on and is pursuing trying to change, California's mind, so to speak, to send some of that money down, because as you've noticed the past couple of weeks, every directive that the governor has been giving to individuals, to businesses trying to stimulate the economy, it has a secondary effect on us as a municipality. And so we need to be fully aware of what we are faced with. One of the most recent ones that has hit has been the sales tax deferral, which for many of our businesses, it's a $50,000 deferral for 1 year. And it's not a grant or a loan. They have to pay it back in 1 year. But if you start thinking of businesses using that to keep them afloat during these times, we will start seeing an impact with our cash flow probably in May and June, as it lags behind what people actually are collecting from the businesses. So knowing that that's ahead of us, I know that we've been having discussions as we've looked at the threats, because a decrease in revenue is definitely a threat, and we have to look at this, as we've all said, in making these assessments, just like a business. All of our businesses have to look at this. We've got to look at this at the city, and I'm very confident that we're having the right discussions, and we are forward looking. I want to thank our city team for already taking a look at these. Spencer Morrison, who's our finance director, has sent us out reports, and I want to thank Spencer for that, and whatnot. I also want to thank everybody's been doing a great job. It's a lot to digest. Councilmember Estendola, hit on some good points. We do need to be encouraged through this time. This is not going to be a sprint. This is going to be a marathon. But as it's been said many times, this too shall pass, and we will make it through this together. And so I'm just glad that I serve with the four of you on this council right now, because I feel like we're having a lot of the right discussions to get this city through it. So with that, I will report back later once we have more information from the league. If I have any more information from the national group that I'm affiliated with, and let's just stay strong, Yuba City.
All right, thank you, Dave. Vice Mayor Bloomgarden.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and do more thinking than talking about what I've been doing, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that this council has been extremely engaged. We meet at least weekly as a group. We also have, as you've heard tonight, different subgroups meeting, listening to the community, taking in the wants and the needs and filtering those all through the essential services that city government is intended to provide. I also want to make sure that I thank the city workers, city staff for what they've are doing for the city. These are extraordinary times, and our city staff has performed well, I believe. I also had the opportunity to visit the Bi-County Emergency Operations Center and personally meet with Robert Bendorf, who is the Yuba County Administrative Officer, who is essentially heading this effort, this Bi-County effort, and also met with Dr. Liu. This is an incredibly complex emergency to manage, and it's easy to sit on the sidelines and lob shots at what people think they should or shouldn't be doing. But I'm convinced, after having spent some time over there, that they're doing their best, and we all deserve to give them some patience. The biggest thing that we can do as a community to help them is to pay attention to the shelter in place and the social distancing, so that we don't have the numbers of COVID cases continue to rise. Other than that, as Councilwoman Espandola mentioned, I do think that, increased emphasis on outreach is an important concept. We need to make sure that all aspects of the 68,000 plus of Yuba City are aware of the opportunities for them to seek aid where it is available and support those organizations that are providing that aid. But I also want to thank the four of you. We've got our sleeves rolled up. We're engaged with staff, and we're doing our darn best here to move the city through what is going to be, has been mentioned, a marathon, not a sprint. Thank you, Mayor.
And thank you. I really, very well said. It's so important to recognize the sacrifice and all the staff being so nimble. People wearing different hats they've never really maybe found themselves wearing before, but all contributing to moving the city through this crisis. And it's really been a remarkable experience. So all of our department heads, every staff there, all the way down, they're really stepping up and doing a great job. I was sitting here this morning working on some stuff and saw our street sweeper drive by. He's doing his job keeping things clean out there, and just appreciate those little things like that when we're out here coming together. So it's really good to see. It is a crisis. It is a tragedy. People are unfortunately dying, and I concur, of course, that we need to do everything we can to get the word out to get people to finally, some cases finally, take it seriously, because there's endangering everybody, themselves, and all of us by not complying with what is now an order. So yes, I agree. Thank yous are in order, and it will be probably many more to come too, because once this is over, we're going to probably hear a lot of heroic activities that are occurring right now, not the least of which is in our medical community. Grace mentioned these people go to work every day with the knowledge that they are coming into contact with people with that virus, multiple people, and yet they continue to step up, and that's really remarkable and impressive. So I too, my meetings and things I typically go through during the course of the month has been, I can comfortably say, all COVID-19 related. Meetings have been moved to online, if not canceled altogether, postponed. The important things, or what we're doing, is managing this crisis. And yes, we do meet once a week, if not more. I know we do multiple phone calls and texting and keeping up with things on the internet, just so we can do what we can, what our role is as a city, to get us through this. And it's been, I think, incredibly smooth so far. And the reason for that is we knew on the front end, before this even happened, that the importance and of of communication, and especially internally, so we can get that out there, the one message out there, and stand by shoulder to shoulder with everybody that works for the city to get through this. So kudos to everybody so far. We're not, apparently we're still on the uphill side of the curve, but we have more to come, more hard work to come, but I think we're ready for the task and we'll get through it. So unless anybody has anything, I will adjourn at this time. All right, well, thank you all very much. And Brian, if you're still with us, Diana, Terrell, I know there had to been some work going into setting this virtual meeting up. I would not have had a clue how to do it. But thank you for that. And I think it went, for our first go at it, it went quite well. So thank you for that. And we're adjourned, and you all have a good night and stay safe.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Vice Mayor.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.